For 23 years, I pursued Willow relentlessly until she finally agreed to marry me. But on our wedding day, the man of her dreams, Makoto, showed up uninvited and disrupted everything. He declared, "Willow, you've won the bet, divorcing her. Don't go through with this wedding." I pleaded with her to stay, not to walk away. But she turned her back to me and left without a second thought. Then the system voice rang out. Conquest failed. The heroine will be eliminated. I stood frozen in shock. Wasn't I supposed to be the one who died? But in the next moment, Willow collapsed in Makoto's arms, lifeless. Before the ceremony, I had once teased Willow, half joking, half testing. I asked if Makoto showed up to take you away on our wedding day. Would you leave with him? She looked down and gave a soft smile. That's impossible. He won't come, she said, her voice carrying a subtle sadness, not as if she was convincing me, but more like she was trying to convince herself. I didn't stop. But what if he actually did come? For a split second, excitement flickered across her face, but then she reverted to her usual sweet demeanor and said teasingly, "Honey, we're getting married soon." Why are you thinking about nonsense like that? She knew I was powerless whenever she acted this way. Usually I would have gone silent, but not this time. I begged her, "Willow, please, no matter what happens, can we just go through with the wedding?" She frowned. "George, seriously? Can you stop? Makoto is already married. He's not coming to ruin anything." Understood? I didn't want to seem pathetic, but I wanted to survive, because I was a conqueror. My very first mission was to win over Willow and get her to marry me. Truthfully, it wasn't all that difficult. She didn't even need to fall in love with me. As long as we were married before she turned 28, my task would be completed. To make that happen, I transmigrated. When she was just 5 years old, back then, she was only a servant's daughter, living in the basement of the Ito family's home. To stay close to her, I had the system assign me the identity of another servant's son. We grew up side by side, sharing every chapter of our lives. We woke up at 5 a.m. to study, competed against each other, pushed one another forward, wore cheap 10 yuan clothes, ate 50-cent street food. Though we were poor, we were never embarrassed because we took pride in each other. At 20, we both got accepted into the country's top university, scoring among the best. That day, as the sun set and golden light washed over the campus, Willow sat next to me, cheeks flushed, leaning on my shoulder. She whispered, "George, I'm really glad you're in this world." Back then, I felt thankful too. Thankful that the one I had to conquer was a bright, cheerful girl like her. But then Makoto returned from overseas and everything changed. His father made a massive donation to the university, an entire building, and just like that, Makoto joined our class. He was rich, charming, effortlessly cool, the classic perfect guy. From the moment he arrived, girls were screaming and swooning, but Willow, the beauty of the campus, wasn't impressed. So, on day one, Makoto set his sights on her. If she was ice, he was fire, determined to melt her no matter what. Willow couldn't stand him at first. To her, he was just an arrogant rich boy who knew nothing about real struggles. She told him time and again that she loved me, that we were inseparable. But a guy like Makoto didn't care. He charged ahead like a bull, slowly forcing his way into her heart. From that point on, Makoto started planting seeds in her mind every day. He told her what she and I shared wasn't love, just habit. "You and George are just used to each other," he said. "You've been together since childhood. That's not love. Love is passion, longing," said, holding my hand probably. It felt like holding her own. I tried to intervene, but after more than a decade together, our bond had grown so familiar and steady it lacked any sparks. The harder I tried to deny his words, the more I ended up proving him right. Still, neither of us wanted to destroy what we had, but Makoto couldn't hold back forever. At the school's anniversary event, he declared his love to a girl in front of everyone and kissed her on stage. That was the tipping point. Willow didn't say a word, just bit her lip, but her eyes gave everything away. That night, I saw them. Locked in a passionate kiss outside the dorms, Makoto devoured her like a starving man. He'd finally claimed her and me. I was back to being just her childhood friend. Eventually, Makoto brought Willow back to the Ito family estate. It was the first time I saw the distinguished head of the Ito family lose his temper, and the first time I saw hesitation in Willow's eyes. But his father's fury didn't break them, it only made their love stronger. Furious, he cut off Makoto's financial access. Within a month, Willow had burned through everything she'd earned from part-time jobs. She borrowed money from me more than once. And for the first time ever, she even asked her mother for almost 20,000 yuan. You have to understand, Willow and I had depended entirely on scholarships ever since high school. Her mother once even called me privately, full of concern, to ask if something had happened to her daughter. I could only comfort her, saying that Willow had enrolled in a language course and just needed a bit of money. But I knew the truth deep down. This entire mess was because Makoto wanted to save face. Their breakup when it happened was far from peaceful. Makoto simply couldn't understand why Willow was so angry over him throwing a 20,000 yuan dinner for his friends. To him, it wasn't a big deal. He used to drink wine worth 20,000 yuan without a second thought. Willow didn't say a word, just kept her lips tightly sealed. But I knew the reason she ended it. It wasn't that she no longer loved him. It was that she believed she wasn't good enough for him. 5 years later, the once powerful Ito family began to falter. At the same time, the tech company Willow and I had built from the ground up was gaining attention. Whispers began to circulate that the Ito family was seeking a marriage alliance. With renewed hope, Willow dressed carefully and went to see Makoto. But the outcome was inevitable. Even though the Ito family was falling apart, they were still out of her league. They weren't old aristocrats, but they were clinging desperately to power, hoping to marry into a truly established family. And in the end, Makoto married the heir of the Kim family. That's when Willow started frequenting nightclubs, drinking heavily and crying herself to sleep. I took care of business matters during the day and fetched her from bars at night. Every time she got drunk, her flushed cheeks reminded me of that day when she leaned on my shoulder under the setting sun and my chest tightened. Back then, she must have really believed that my presence in her life was a blessing. Just 2 months before Willow's 28th birthday, I had already given up all hope of completing my mission. Rumors were swirling that Makoto's marriage with the Kim family heiress was unraveling and a divorce was likely. I'd already said farewell to my mother and made plans to travel the world. That's when Willow called. She asked if I still loved her, if I'd be willing to marry her. After all those years of waiting, finally getting what I wanted should have made me ecstatic, and I was. But I wasn't sure if it was because I'd survive or because I'd be with her. In the days leading up to the wedding, I asked her again and again, did she truly want this? Every time, she nodded. But whenever I brought up Makoto, she couldn't even fake an answer. Strangely, I found I didn't care that much anymore. As long as we went through with the wedding, I'd fulfill my mission. During the entire ceremony, I was nervous, afraid at every moment that something would go wrong. Willow seemed distant, distracted, like she was waiting for someone else. And sure enough, right as we were about to exchange rings, Makoto appeared. It felt like the axe had finally fallen. And strangely, I felt a trace of relief. Makoto said, "Willow, you won the bet. I'm getting a divorce. Don't go through with this wedding." In one final desperate move to survive, I grabbed Willow's wrist and pleaded, "Please don't go. Did you forget what you promised me? I was just one step away from surviving." She looked at me, guilt written across her face, but still pulled her hand back and walked toward Makoto, the man she had always dreamed of. She looked broken as she whispered, "I'm sorry, George. Honestly, this whole wedding only happened because Makoto told me he didn't deserve me, that since it would be his second marriage, I deserved better. I got angry and asked you because I figured if I was someone who had been married once too, maybe he wouldn't feel so ashamed. And when I thought of someone who could help me do that, a best friend, you were the only one who came to mind." I stared blankly at the woman I had spent 23 years conquering. I had nothing more to say. I said to the system, "I'm abandoning the mission." The system responded, "Confirm." I said, "Confirm." And it declared, "Conquest failed. The heroine will now be erased." I stood stunned. The one who is supposed to die. The moment the system's voice rang out, my mind went completely blank. I didn't even have time to react before Willow's eyes lost their light. She collapsed into Makoto's arms. But he didn't notice he still held her like a man victorious. His voice full of joy as he said, "Willow, I knew it. I knew that as long as I came back, you'd be right here waiting for me." As he said this, he leaned in to kiss her. But over her shoulder, his eyes met mine, dark, mocking, filled with smugness. He was flaunting his win. To him, Willow had always been nothing more than a lovesick girl chasing him, and I was just the lovesick fool chasing her. He had always looked down on me, like it was natural, like he was born superior. But Makoto, do you realize? The woman you're kissing right now is already dead. Below the altar, the only table with guests erupted into loud applause. Someone even popped the confetti they'd prepared in advance. It's possible Willow had already suspected that Makoto might interrupt the wedding. Since he was a married man, she only invited a small circle of her closest girlfriends, each of whom already knew the complicated history she had with him. As for me, filled with dread that something might go wrong, and even more terrified my mother would witness me die at my own wedding, I didn't ask her to come. The only person I invited was my attorney. He stood in the crowd, phone in hand, recording every second of this tragic romance. Originally, the plan was simple. If I failed my conquest and died at the ceremony, my lawyer would release the footage to all major news outlets. I had even come up with the ideal headline: "Bride rekindles with ex. Groom dies heartbroken at the altar." But unexpectedly, it wasn't me who died. It was Willow. Makoto kept kissing her for some time before finally noticing her face had turned. Frighteningly pale, panic gripped him. Almost reflexively, he shoved her away. Her body fell hard onto the floor, the back of her head striking the marble with a sickening thud. Instantly, blood began to spread beneath her. Then I heard the system's cold voice echo again. "Now she's really dead." Right after that, I saw Willow's spirit slowly rise from her lifeless body. She stared at her own corpse in disbelief, then at Makoto, whose face had turned white as he bent over, vomiting uncontrollably. Chaos erupted everywhere. Someone called for an ambulance. Someone else rushed in, trying to revive Willow. I, however, calmly walked over and stood silently beside her fallen body. Willow's ghost hovered nearby. When she saw I wasn't crying, her cheeks puffed with frustration. "George, I just died and you're not even crying," she huffed, her tone wounded. "So this is what 20-some years of feelings meant to you?" Her nose wrinkled in grievance. "Once I wake up, we're officially done being friends." Kept still, acting as though I couldn't hear or see her. My face remained expressionless as I stood there. Meanwhile, Makoto had finished vomiting and rushed to Willow's side, grabbing her cold hand and weeping without restraint, sobbing the kind of sob that tears a person apart. Seeing Makoto cry for her, Willow's own eyes grew red and glassy. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Makoto must be devastated. What is he going to do without me?" Suddenly, a sharp ringtone pierced through the air. Makoto's hand trembled. As he lifted the phone, fingers quivering as he answered. On the other end, a commanding woman's voice rang out, "Weren't you the one who wanted a divorce?" "I'm at the Civil Affairs office right now."
Ow!
The color drained from Makoto's face. He darted toward the exit in a rush. Willow instinctively tried to reach out and grab him, but her hand passed right through his. In the blink of an eye, Makoto wiped away his tears and forced on a charming smile. "Baby, I'm sorry," he said, lowering his voice. "I don't want to get divorced anymore. I was just joking when I said that. Why'd you take it so seriously?" Willow stared at him, stunned. How could Makoto say something like that? No, it had to be a misunderstanding. He had to have his reasons. She desperately tried to hold on to him, but her hand slipped. Through his body again and again, through her choked sobs, she begged Makoto, "Please don't leave. Look at me, I'm dying." When it dawned on her that she couldn't stop him, she tried to follow, but an unseen force held her back.
Ash.
Her spirit was now bound to me. She could only stand there, helpless, as Makoto hurriedly fled the venue. The wedding had taken place at a remote garden hotel, far from the city center. The ambulance didn't show up for another 20 minutes. After Willow's body was loaded onto the stretcher, her friends started to disappear one by one. They gave flimsy excuses, claiming urgent matters and saying they wouldn't be going to the hospital. "Text me if she wakes up, okay? Otherwise I'll worry," said the one she thought of as her best friend. When I didn't respond, she gave a forced smile and awkwardly left. On the way to the hospital, Willow's soul sat in silence. Maybe she never imagined that people who acted so close to her could turn out to be so insincere. I closed my eyes and mentally called up the system. I asked system, "Why was Willow the one who got erased?" It replied, "This system is titled, Blame Others More, Reflect Less on Yourself. You worked tirelessly for 23 years to conquer her and still failed. Clearly the fault lies with her. Therefore, she was deleted." I clenched my jaw. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" The system snorted. "Why didn't you ask earlier?" I muttered. "Guess your name suits you perfectly." At the hospital, after multiple resuscitation efforts, the doctors finally declared Willow dead. Her spirit screamed, cried, and struggled, trying to re-enter her body, but eventually she realized it was no use. She was truly gone. I had her body taken to the funeral home. I sent out notices to a few family members and close friends, letting them know the funeral would be held the next day. After all the arrangements were complete, I called my mom. "Mom, I want to go visit Aunt Liu today. Want to come with me?" My mother sounded surprised. "But it's only the 10th. Don't you usually go see her on the 15th of each month?" Willow's ghost froze. "George, I never knew you visited my mom every single month." I was quiet for a while. Then I replied, "Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Please prepare yourself. Willow has passed away." My mother and Aunt Liu had been inseparable since their days working as housemaids for the Ito family. From childhood, Aunt Liu had shown me nothing but kindness, and my mom loved Willow as if she were her own. When we were younger, other kids mocked us for not having fathers. I remember smiling and telling Willow, "Even if we don't have dads, we've got to." Moms. Over the years, our bond grew stronger, and our mothers were thrilled. But in their hearts, we were already one family. On the way to the senior care facility, my mom kept dabbing her tears away. In the back seat, Willow's spirit sat silently, her eyes slightly red, deep in thought. Inside the care home, when Aunt Lee saw me, there wasn't much of a reaction. She'd been suffering from Alzheimer's for years and no longer recognized me. Wanting to avoid burdening Willow, she had checked herself into the home voluntarily. But the moment she saw my mom, her face lit up. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Her body was connected to tubes, including one in her throat. Witnessing this, Willow nearly collapsed. "Mom," she cried out, rushing to her mother's side. But her hand passed right through. She turned to me, sobbing, "George, didn't you tell me my mom was this sick?" Just then, the doctor doing rounds came and asked me into his office. Willow's soul quietly followed. The doctor asked, "Mr. Wong, did you help notify Miss Liu to visit her mother?" Our staff called her several times, but she never answered. Mrs. Liu is in late-stage Alzheimer's, and ever since the pneumonia, her condition has deteriorated rapidly. She doesn't have long left. Please try to persuade Miss Liu to come more often. I sighed and said, "I've reminded her plenty of times." Willow's face twisted in anger. "You liar, George. When did you ever tell me?" But then she stopped, frozen. Like a lightning bolt had hit her. "Wait, you did tell me. You reminded me more than once." Her voice dropped. "Why didn't I come? Why didn't I visit her?" Sighed. I scoffed, "Because you spent your nights drinking and your days asleep, wallowing in grief. Because to you, no one mattered except Makoto." Before leaving, I informed the doctor that Willow had passed in an accident and requested he contact me directly with any updates on Aunt Liu. On the way out, I paid another 100,000 yuan toward her continued care. Willow stood beside me, a swirl of emotions crossing her face. She bit her lip and quietly said, "George, thank you." The following day was Willow's funeral. Besides a few colleagues, not many friends or family came. After a short memorial, everyone left quickly. I was about to ask the staff to bring Willow's body to the cremation room when two unexpected visitors appeared. Makoto had actually shown up hand in hand with his wife Sophia, the so-called treasure of the Kim family. Sophia was a full-bodied woman, wearing a bright pink formal gown that clung uncomfortably around her waist. Every step she took tugged at the dress's seams as if it might tear open at any second. On top of that, she was wobbling in absurdly high heels that clacked loudly with every step, making it painful just to watch. Her perfume, thick and suffocating, combined with layers of makeup, shattered the solemn atmosphere the moment she walked into the hall. Makoto stood beside her, smiling obsequiously. Willow, curled up in a corner of the room, looked momentarily happy to see Makoto. But the instant she noticed who was at his side, her face twisted with rage. Makoto, why did you bring her here? Why are you holding her hand? She screamed. Of course he couldn't hear her. He gave a faint smile to Sophia and said, Sophia, the ceremony's over. Let's go. Sophia pulled back, annoyed. Why the rush? She looked at me and said, Mr. Wong, I came to inform you. Tomorrow, Kim Group will begin acquiring Eastern Tech. Eastern Tech was the company Willow and I had built together, focused on solar energy. She owned 51% of the shares. I had the other 49%. At the time, I thought giving her the majority would make things smoother, since she was the world's protagonist. I stayed calm and replied, Miss Kim, Eastern Tech is the product of my and Willow's hard work. I won't sell. Sophia answered coldly, Mr. Wong, I'm not here for your opinion. This is just a courtesy notice. She stretched out. Her hand. Makoto hesitated, then pulled a document from his bag and placed it into hers. When Willow saw that contract, her face crumpled in rage and despair. She shouted, Makoto, you liar! How could you do this to me? I gave you everything, she sobbed. You said you were drowning in debt, that you couldn't divorce her. And that's why I gave it to you. It wasn't until I read the paper that I understood her breakdown. It was an official contract, transferring her entire 51% stake in Eastern Tech to Makoto as a personal gift. A lawyer had drafted it, and it had been notarized. I looked at the date it was signed before Willow and I got married. That meant the shares had still been considered her personal property. And now, even as her husband, I had no legal right to reclaim them. That Makoto held 51% of Eastern Tech's shares, he had full authority to approve any sale of the company. The anger I had been suppressing started bubbling up inside me. That foolish Willow had really set herself up for this. Eastern Tech was my creation. I had built it from the ground up. Ever since she married Makoto, she barely contributed anything to the company. If I hadn't been clinging to her supposed protagonist aura, I would have taken a bigger share long ago. I went over the gift agreement line by line, desperately, hoping for a loophole that wasn't even a crack to slip through. Sophia looked pleased, almost too pleased. Her sweet smile was laced with malice as she said, Mr. Wong, there's no need to double-check. We wouldn't be standing here if the contract hadn't been verified. I let out a bitter laugh. Miss Kim, I underestimated you. I thought you were clueless about the mess between Makoto and Willow. It turns out, not only do you know you're profiting from it, Makoto's face tightened with fury. Growled, George, stop spreading lies. I've always treated Willow like a sister. She gave me those shares out of gratitude for how the Ito family helped her growing up. Then he added quickly, like he was swearing on something sacred, Sophia is the only woman I've ever loved. That's why I transferred the shares to her. If spirits could spit blood, Willow would have been coughing up gallons. After everything she sacrificed for him, this was the thanks she got. Pat on the head and a comparison to a sibling. And now her life's work had been handed over to Sophia, just like that. If Eastern Tech hadn't been the product of my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights, I might have laughed at the whole thing. Willow, you really brought this on yourself. I looked at Makoto, my voice ice cold. She gave you everything. Her love. Her trust. And now you're saying this nonsense in front of her coffin? Do you feel nothing? Willow's eyes locked onto his, full of one last desperate hope. For a moment, Makoto looked rattled. George, he said, you've always been jealous of me. You were in love with Willow for years, but she never chose you. She always looked at me. Still the only woman I've ever truly loved is my wife. Willow's face contorted in disgust. She raised her hand and tried to slap him across the cheek. "Makoto, you bastard!" she screamed. "You're the one who said you couldn't stand Sophia. That marrying her was just to protect your family. That I was the one you loved, so why? Why?" But no matter how hard she swung, her ghostly blows vanished into the air. Watching her breakdown only twisted something deeper inside me. I pulled out the recording our lawyer's footage of Makoto crashing the wedding and handed it to Sophia. "Miss Kim," I said, "you might want to take a look at this." She watched the video calmly, unfazed. "Makoto did try to divorce me," she said. "I agreed. But yesterday he changed his mind, said he regretted it, proposed again, and offered me this company as a bride price. Since he's so sincere, I've decided to forgive him." Da-da-da-na-la-da-da-da-da-da. My lip curled into a sarcastic smile. "How generous of you, Miss Kim. I guess when Eastern Tech is on the table, getting cheated on doesn't sting so badly. Then again, with someone like you waiting at home, I can't blame him." For the first time, Sophia's expression cracked. Her voice dropped into a venomous hiss. "George, maybe you should stop being so smug and worry about your disabled workers instead. The Kim Group doesn't do charity. Once we take control, the first thing we're doing is getting rid of all of them." Then she turned sharply to Makoto. "What are you standing there for? Let's go." With that, she spun on her heels and dragged him away. "Makoto, I was going to let you off the hook. I figured your life was already pathetic enough. But you've crossed a line. You're after Eastern Tech now? Your obsession with me? I could tolerate that. But going after my company? I won't forgive?" I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. For the first time in a long while, Willow didn't look defeated. She actually looked at peace. "Thank you, George," she whispered. "You're still willing to protect the company, even now. I must have been so blind before. Sorry. Protect the company for you. What a joke." The system's cold voice chimed in. "Don't tell me. She still thinks she's coming back to life." That night, I instructed the system to keep her soul locked outside my bedroom. I slept soundly. But the next morning, I was jolted awake by a shrill, unrelenting ringtone. It was one of the factory managers. "Fuck! Mr. Wong, you need to come down here right now. There's a protest. The workers are causing a scene. We already had a tight deadline for a European shipment. If we missed it, the breach penalties alone would bankrupt us." Asked, "What happened?" Apparently someone had started a rumor the moment the morning shift began. The rumor claimed that because of Willow's death, I had lost the will to run the company and was planning to sell it to the Kim Group. But Kim Group only wanted Eastern Tech's core IC chip tech and the engineering department. The rest, downstream factories, equipment, and workers, they didn't care about. And as if I'd sell the core assets and shut down the rest factories, staff, everything like it meant nothing. Utterly absurd, Willow and I poured everything into this company, especially in developing the solar IC controller chip, just so we wouldn't have to depend on anyone again. And now, they think I'd just throw it all away? This was nothing but the Kim family getting arrogant, pulling cheap stunts to rattle me. I decided to go to the factory myself to address the situation. By the time I got there, dozens of workers had already gathered at the gate. Soon as I stepped out of the car, the plant manager and a few senior staff came rushing to greet me, but the crowd surged forward, surrounding me before they could even speak. Willow's spirit stood off too. The side clearly rattled. "What do we do, George? These workers aren't thinking straight." And right on cue, the yelling began. "Mr. Wong, is it true you're shutting everything down? What about the solar setups we installed at home? I paid 200,000 yuan for mine. Yeah, we want compensation. Give us back our money." To be honest, their anger wasn't without cause. Losing a job is bad enough, but this was worse. Each of these workers had signed agreements under our residential solar initiative. They'd each invested 200,000 yuan into solar systems for their homes, fully voluntary. The company hadn't profited from it. Still, that kind of money was no small matter for factory workers. The electricity from their setups was sold to the national grid, with yearly returns between 10 to 15%. but they wouldn't see a profit for years. If the company went under and their systems failed, there'd be no one left to protect their investment. I wanted to explain, but no one was listening. The shouting grew louder, people pressed in closer. Fists clenched, fingers pointed, and the atmosphere started to spiral. A few workers looked ready to throw punches. The execs struggled to hold them back. Willow panicked. She stepped between me and the mob, trembling, trying to talk them down. It would have been touching if she hadn't ignored every sacrifice I made while she was alive. Now suddenly she wanted to be the martyr. Just as I started considering whether to make a strategic retreat, another group burst out from inside the factory. Some limped. Some had one working eye. Some moved awkwardly due to polio. But they ran wobbly, staggering, fast, and charged right into the mob. "Touch Mr. Wong, and you'll have to answer to us." They were small in build, but their presence hit like thunder. The crowd immediately fell silent. These were the very disabled employees Sophia had insulted. The same people I fought to hire when everyone opposed the decision. When Eastern Tech was still growing, Willow and I promised to help others if we ever had the means. But when I proposed hiring disabled workers, Willow was the first to say no. "I don't care. Don't guilt-trip me. We're not running a charity," she'd said. I had to threaten to leave before she finally relented. Later, a viral video of those very employees leaving the factory in uniform after their shift gave us an incredible public image. When Willow died, I didn't cry. But seeing these employees standing up for me now, I nearly did. "Willow, open your eyes and look properly. That little gift contract of yours almost destroyed the lives of people who still believe in what we built." With things finally calming down, I dropped my diplomatic tone. My eyes were cold and my voice sharp. "There are rumors floating. Around that, now that Willow's gone, I'm selling Eastern Tech. And I ask, why the hell would I? The CFO's a lifelong friend. The HR director, my classmate of 10 years. I brought in 80% of our deals, negotiated the subsidies, headhunted. Our tech director, myself. So let me say this clearly. Eastern Tech can survive without Willow, but without me, it collapses. Anyone who still trusts me, get back to work. Anyone who doesn't submit your resignation to HR today, I'll tolerate this once." "Not again." Then someone from the crowd shouted, "Boss Wong, we believe in you." Another voice joined in, "Yeah. Let's get back to work." And just like that, the wave turned. Workers began returning to the factory. The crowd thinned. Willow looked at me, eyes shining. "George, the way you handled that, you looked really handsome." The system cut in with its usual chill. "Go away. You're not part of this anymore." Just as I returned to the office, Makoto burst in, dragging an entire legal team from the Kim group with him. I immediately ordered security to throw them out. But naturally, Makoto, clearly having lost all sense, wasn't about to leave quietly. While the guards were distracted, he swiped his access card and rode the executive elevator straight to the CEO's floor. Of course, I was the one sitting behind the desk when he stormed in, finger pointed directly at me. "George, why won't you let us in? You think hiding in your office will solve anything?" I looked up slowly, expression cold and blank. "Makoto, if you had even a shred of intelligence left, you'd crawl back to your sugar mama quietly. Maybe then I'd let you hang around a little longer." Makoto snorted, disdain plastered across his face. "Still putting on airs, huh, George? I don't get how you can still look so smug. From day one, I've crushed you beneath my feet." Willow's expression twisted in disgust. Seeing the venom on Makoto's face, she murmured, like she didn't recognize him anymore, "Makoto? How much have you lied to me? What kind of twisted person are you really?" Makoto's next words answered her question all too clearly. He sneered. "George, you're nothing but a pathetic son of a maid. What are you pretending to be? Some big shot? We're born to grovel? The first time I saw you with Willow, I hated you both. You had those fearless eyes, and I couldn't stand it. I'm the Ito family heir, and you dared look at me without bowing your head. The closer you got to Willow, the more I wanted to destroy what you had just to prove I was born superior." He chuckled bitterly. "It's funny, really. I acted like I was in love with Willow, and she actually bought It's so naive. I was only playing with her. Remember when I asked for 20,000 yuan? That was just to see how stupid she could be. When she begged her housemaid mom for the money, I almost died laughing. Willow shook with rage, eyes blazing, teeth chattering. Her entire body trembled. As she screamed, "You bastard, you vile, disgusting bastard. I must have been blind to fall for you." But of course, Makoto couldn't hear her. He kept going. I even made her think I'd marry her. Kept her strung along, not because I wanted her, but because I didn't want you to have her. Even if she was garbage to me, she was still too good for a worm like you. 23 years by her side, George. All that devotion just so she could dump you the second I crooked a finger. So tell me, what makes you think you can ever compete with me? Willow's fury collapsed into devastation. She floated back to my side, eyes bloodshot and filled. With tears, "George, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I loved you. I really did. But did I end up falling for someone like him? You treated me so well. Used to be happy just eating grilled gluten you bought me. And then I wanted more and more. You gave me your heart. And I gave everything to Makoto. I crushed your love, ignored your kindness. Honestly, I was no better than he was. I don't deserve you, George. Maybe in another life." But I had no time left for her regret. I turned to Makoto and sneered. "You want to know what gives me the right? Because I am the CEO of Eastern Tech, even the Kim family. Your mooching off calls me President Wong. You may own 51% on paper, but you'll only ever give it away. I can take it public." Just as I finished speaking, Sophia barged into my office with her own lawyers. Her voice dripped with arrogance. "Going public, Mr. Wong? Aren't you underestimating the Kim family?" I leaned back in my chair and stared at the intruders coldly. "Miss Kim, don't you think you're being a bit presumptuous storming into my office like this?" Sophia chuckled. "This company's about to have a new owner. No need for formalities." I laughed. Voice sharp. "Seems my legal team's been slacking. Otherwise you'd have received your court summons by now." Sophia rolled her eyes. "Still chasing pipe dreams?" "I told you that gift contract is ironclad." I nodded. "It is. But I'm not suing over the contract. I'm suing Makoto for criminal negligence that led to my wife's death and physical harm. He violated her rights, her right to life and safety. I'm filing for revocation of the gift on those grounds." Makoto's face changed instantly. "George, what are you talking about?" I smirked. "Let the court figure that out. Now get the hell out of my office before I call security." Stunned, Sophia and Makoto had no choice but to slink away. The next day, my lawyer called to ask me to come in and sign the autopsy consent. Willow's body needed a full examination to determine her official cause of death. Dissect every organ, brain, cerebellum, heart, everything. Any remaining hope Willow had of being revived vanished. There's no coming back from that. Still, she followed me quietly and said, "George, if this helps save Eastern Tech, I'm okay with it. I just really wish I could hold you once more." 1 week later, the autopsy report arrived. The official cause of death, a ruptured aortic vessel, brought on by long-term alcohol abuse and chronic sleep deprivation. The condition was fatal almost every time. But if caught early, there was a tiny chance she could have been saved. Trauma to the back of her head had caused hemorrhagic shock, which sped up her time of death. Both conditions, head trauma and internal rupture, were independently fatal. As I read through the report, Willow hovered silently beside me, eyes fixed on the paper. Then suddenly, she collapsed to the ground, clutching her head and sobbing. "I did this to myself. I destroyed my own body for Makoto. And in the end, he's the one who ended it all." With this report, Makoto could now be charged with criminal negligence resulting in serious harm. As the recipient of the gifted shares, his actions had directly endangered Willow's right to life and physical safety. As her legal representative, I was able to file a petition to void the gift contract in court. 1 month later, Makoto was sentenced to prison for negligent injury. Meanwhile, the internet exploded with scandals surrounding the Kim group. Kim heiress Sophia used her husband's affair and a gift contract to seize Eastern Tech. Groom crashes mistress's wedding. sending bride to her death on her big day. Shortly afterward, the Kim Group's official social media account posted a statement. Miss Sophia has been relieved of all duties. Future operations will be overseen by Lisa. These days, all Willow did was beg for forgiveness. The system notified me. She was about to dissipate. I walked alone to the school track, the place where we first held hands. The sun was nearly gone, casting red light across the sky, stunning, but achingly lonely. Willow's soul was almost invisible. Now, so light and transparent that a small breeze could have carried her away. She sat next to me, gently resting her head on my shoulder again. I let out a quiet sigh and said, "Willow, it's time to go." She didn't seem surprised I could see her. She whispered, "So, you could see me the whole time, George." The system had told the truth. These 23 years you stayed by my side. It was all just to conquer me. And if you failed, I'd die. So no matter how cruel I was, you kept forgiving me. Just to save my life, I didn't respond. The system really knew how to land an emotional blow. Even in death, it made her feel guilt she could never shake. Willow choked out George. If there's a next life before she could finish. A whoosh, her soul scattered into the wind. The system announced coldly, "I've kicked her into reincarnation." "Host, shall we proceed to the next mission?" I asked. "What about my mom?" "An Eastern tech?" It replied, "Your body in this world will be inherited by a clone. Every parallel world has a version of you." I let out a breath and said, "Then let's begin the next world." Extra chapter. Comedy version. "Please do not associate with main plot," Willow snapped. "I already heard the truth from other wandering soul system. Give me back my life." Every other failed love conquest ends with the host being erased. Why was I the one wiped out? I've contacted the Overgod. Just wait. Under System Governance Protocol, Article 7, unauthorized soul termination equals system deletion. In that moment, the Overgod descended from the heavens, expression stern. "Who dares accuse my son in the celestial court?" Willow was speechless. She collapsed dramatically and started crawling through the darkness like a tragic ghost. "Why? Why me? This is injustice." The system scoffed, because for 23 years, George gave it everything. In school, you were the protagonist. Plot armor made everything easy. George woke up at 5 a.m., slept at midnight, and still outscored you. In business, George led the solar energy push. He fought to hire disabled employees when no one else cared. Someone filmed it overnight. Eastern tech went viral. Even though his mission was to conquer you, George never gave up on himself. You only cared about romance and drama. So tell me, why should I erase George instead of you? The Overgod nodded proudly. "That's my boy." The system snapped, "Address me by my title when I'm working."